Today we're going to study something fascinating. What happens when you have two like charges plus capital Q and plus small q placed near each other? How does a charge plus q dash placed near these two charges behave? What is the electric field due to a charge system consisting of two like charges? That's what we'll study in this particular chapter. What is the influence of these two charges? Remember how we calculated the electric field because of a dipole on the axis of the dipole? Similarly, we can try to calculate the axial electric field in case of two positive charges that are placed on an axis. Now if you look in the area between these two positive charges, what will be the direction of the electric field here? Here. What will be the electric field? You see, the electric field because of this positive charge Q will be in this direction, and the electric field because of this positive charge Q will be towards the left. So the net electric field will actually be the difference of the electric fields of this charge and this charge, isn't it? At some point on this line, the electric field will be 0 because the electric field due to this charge plus capital Q will cancel the electric field due to this charge plus small q, isn't it? We can even make out that this point where the electric field will be 0 along the axis will be towards the smaller charge. So for example, if this capital Q is greater in magnitude than small q, then in that case the electric field will be 0 somewhere here, isn't it? Because the magnitude of this charge is greater, but this distance at which we are calculating the electric field is greater too, and the magnitude of this charge is lesser, but the distance at which the electric field we are calculating is lesser too, correct? So the point where the electric field is 0 will be somewhere near the smaller charge. What about the region outside these two charges on the axis? What will happen there? So for example, here the electric field will be directed towards the left. That is because the electric field due to the plus capital Q charge will be towards the left, and the electric field due to the plus small q charge will also be towards the left. Similarly, on the right side of this charge system, the net electric field will be towards the right because the electric field due to both the charges will be towards the right. So that is how the direction of the electric field of a two like charge system will be. You can similarly consider two negative charges, minus capital Q and minus small q. Again, in between these charges on the axis, the electric fields will be opposite in direction. The electric field due to the minus capital Q charge will be towards the minus capital Q charge. The electric field because of the minus small q charge will be towards the minus small q charge. And similarly, the electric field will be 0 on the axis at some point between these two charges. The point where the electric field will be 0 will again lie somewhere near the smaller charge, small q. Similarly, at a point outside this two charge system, the electric field will be directed towards the left here. Why? Because the minus q charge will have its field towards the left, and the minus small q charge will also have its field towards the left. You can use common sense to thus calculate the direction of the electric field. The magnitude of the electric field is also very easy to calculate. Clearly, the electric field due to the plus capital Q charge will be this expression, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into capital Q divided by R plus d by 2 whole square, isn't it? This is because the origin has been taken at the center of the two charge system. The electric field due to this plus small q charge will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q by r minus d by 2 whole square. I've already explained to you, how this expression r plus d by 2 whole square and r minus d by 2 whole square, where this comes from. Like I explained that to you when I explained to you the electric field due to the dipole. The field inside this two charge system on the axis will clearly be E1 minus E2, isn't it? After all, we just showed that the field inside will be opposite in direction because of both the charges. I've written E1 minus E2 and not E2 minus E1 because the field due to E1, the charge plus capital Q, will be positive. It will be towards the right, isn't it? but the electric field because of the small charge plus q will be directed towards the negative r direction, the negative x direction, isn't it? So E1 minus E2 will be the field inside these two charges, and the field outside will have a magnitude E1 plus E2 and E1 plus E2. It will of course be directed in opposite directions. So the field here will be directed towards the right in the positive x direction, and the field here will be directed towards the left in the negative x direction. You don't have to worry too much about what the exact magnitude of E1 minus E2 will be, or you don't have to remember the formulae for E1 minus E2 plus E2, anything like this. Just understand what is happening and use your own logic to calculate the direction of the field, and the magnitude of the field at any particular point along the axis. In the case when both the charges are same in both magnitude and sign, that is, we have a charge plus q and a charge plus q like this, this expression gives us the value of the electric field in between the charges, as you can see. Remember, I just wrote an expression for E1 and an expression for E2. I have simply substituted the charge values plus q and plus q in that expression, and simply subtracted E2 out of E1 minus E2, and obtained this expression. You don't have to remember this expression. I have just written it out so that you gain clarity into what's happening. Similarly, when you add E1 plus E2 in the case when both the charges are the same, this is the expression you get. You can even sketch the electric field because of two identical positive charges, with x. This will be the graph that represents the sketch of the electric field as it varies with x. As you can see, when the two charges are identical, the electric field becomes 0 exactly in the middle of the two charge system. That's because the magnitude of both the charges is the same. So the electric field due to this charge here will be like this, and the electric field due to this charge here will be like this, and these electric fields will cancel each other at this origin. As you can see, the electric field is positive in the negative x direction here, isn't it? That's because in this region, that's near this plus q charge on the left, the field due to this plus q charge predominates, and the field due to this plus q charge is towards the right, which is the positive x direction. That is the reason that the electric field is positive as we move towards this plus q charge on the left. Similarly, in this case here, the electric field is negative because near this plus q charge on the right, the electric field due to this plus q charge dominates, and the electric field due to this plus q charge is towards the left, that is in the negative x direction, because of which the electric field is negative in this area. In this area, as you already know, the net electric field is like this, isn't it? That is positive, and like this, that is negative, which is why you can see that to the left of this plus q charge here, the electric field is negative, and the electric field is positive to the right of both these charges. Just get the logic right and you will get all the graphs right. We can similarly sketch the electric field in the case when the two positive charges are not equal. Let's say we have a charge plus capital Q and plus small q, the initial pair of charges that we had considered. In this case, the only difference in the graph will be that the electric field here will become 0 not at the origin but somewhere on the axis near the smaller charge. The electric field will become 0, say here, if small q is the smaller charge and capital Q represents the larger charge. Understood? Let's now move on to the next concept. What about axial electric potential in the case of a two positive charge system? So when you consider this charge plus capital Q and the charge plus small q, what will be the electric potential here, here, here? What will it be? As you can see, the potential due to the plus capital Q charge will be V1 equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q by modulus of R plus D by 2. Similarly, the potential due to the small plus Q charge will be V2 equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q by R minus D by 2. You can yourself calculate the value of this potential. Let me explain how V1 was this expression and V2 was this expression. Consider a point here. Okay, what will be the potential because of charge plus Q at this particular point? It will clearly be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q by x, where this distance here is x, isn't it? And what is x equal to? Clearly x is equal to this distance, which is equal to d by 2, and this distance, which is r. So x is r plus d by 2. If you consider a point that is to the left of this plus q charge, again the net potential at this particular point due to the charge plus capital Q will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into capital Q by x, where this distance is x. Now if this distance is x, what is x equal to? It is clearly equal to this distance, which is minus r, minus this distance, which is d by 2, isn't it? So to account for both this expression and this expression of x is sometimes r plus d by 2, sometimes it's minus r minus d by 2, I have written modulus of r plus d by 2, which simply represents the distance of the point at which the potential has to be calculated from the plus capital Q charge. Similarly, this expression here is modulus of r minus d by 2. The net potential will be simply the sum of V1 and V2. We can even sketch the graph of this potential with respect to the x-axis, isn't it? So as you can see, the potential will always be positive because the potential of the plus capital Q charge is positive and the potential of the plus small q charge is also positive. So the sum of the potentials will always be positive. The potential will again never be zero because both the potentials are positive and therefore there is no question of the potentials cancelling each other. The minimum potential, as you can see here, will be obtained somewhere near the smaller charge, and the point where the potential will be minimum will also be the point where the electric field due to both the charges will be zero. Remember, dV by dr is equal to electric field. So where dV by dr is zero or the potential is minimum, that's the point where the electric field is zero. Again, you don't need to remember exactly the graph that's there in this case. You don't need to remember the exact formulae of the potential. Just use simple logic, understand what's happening, and you'll grasp enough concepts to clear IIT JEE. This would be the graph of the potential in the case of two negative charges. As you can see, the potential will be completely negative in this case. Can you tell me why? That is because the potential due to the minus capital Q charge will be negative and the potential due to the minus small q charge will be negative. So clearly the sum of these two potentials will always be negative, isn't it? Again, this portion here, this one, will be the place where dV by dr will be equal to 0, or the electric field will be 0, isn't it? So this was about studying the electric potential on the axis of a two-like charge system. Let's now move on to the next concept. Let's calculate the equatorial electric field of this two positive charge system. Okay, so let's say this is the origin. Let's say these two positive charges are at a distance d from each other, and let's say we want to calculate the electric potential on the equator of this two-like charge system at a point which is at a distance r from the axis of this two charge system, and this point makes an angle theta with this plus capital Q charge. So what will be the electric field here because of these two charges? Well, the electric field because of this charge here will be E2, and the electric field because of this charge here will be E1. As you can see, E2 will be along the line joining the plus capital Q charge and the point. Similarly, E1 will be along the line joining the plus small q charge and the point. We can add these two electric field vectors to get the final equatorial electric field at any point on the equator. So if you take the components of the electric field along the x-axis, the equatorial electric field along the x-axis will be E1 minus E2 cos theta, isn't it? Similarly, the electric field along the y-axis will be E1 plus E2 sin theta, isn't it? After all, if this is E2 here, this angle will be theta, and the component of E2 along the x-axis will be E2 cos theta, and the component of E2 along the y-axis will be E2 sin theta. The same will be the case for E1, which is why this expression and this expression are obtained. The value of E1, of course, will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into capital Q by r square plus d square by 4, isn't it? That's because the length of this hypotenuse here, which is the distance between the plus q charge and the point at which the electric field is to be calculated, is square root of r square plus d square by 4, isn't it? Similarly, the electric field because of this charge plus small q will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q by r square plus d square by 4. Thus you can calculate the value of the electric field and also the direction of the electric field on the equator. In the special case when both the two positive charges are of the same magnitude, the net electric field will be E and E along these directions shown. That means that the components E cos theta and E cos theta will cancel each other. Isn't that so? The components E sin theta and E sin theta will add up, however. So the net electric field because of two identical positive charges will be along the y-axis and will not be along the x-axis. That is clear, isn't it? We can even calculate the magnitude of this electric field along the y-axis. After all, we know that E is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q by r square plus d square by 4. After all, r square plus d square by 4 is equal to hypotenuse square, which is the distance of each of these charges from the point on the equator, isn't it? So we know the value of E. Similarly, sin theta can be written as sin theta equal to r divided by square root of r square plus d by 2 whole square, isn't it? Because this is d by 2, this is r, this is square root of r square plus d by 2 whole square, isn't it? So when you substitute this value of sin theta here and when you substitute this value of here, this is the net expression that you get, and this is the electric field at any point r on the equator of a two identical positive charge system. Again, you don't need to remember the value of this field, but just get the logic, just get where this value of the electric field is coming from. Now there's a fascinating fact that you can associate with this electric field. You see, when there are these two positive charges and when the electric field is this expression that you see on your screen, this electric field is actually zero at the origin and at infinity. Can you make that out? After all, when you put r equal to 0 in this expression, 2e sin theta, clearly 2e sin theta is 0. Similarly, when you put r equal to infinity in this expression, again this expression is 0. That's because this expression can be written like this: 2q by 4 pi epsilon naught into 1 by r plus t square by 4r whole raised to 3 by 2. I have simply divided the numerator and denominator in this expression by r. Now in this expression, if you replace r by a value tending to infinity, clearly d square by 4r becomes 0, isn't it? Because when r tends to infinity, d square by 4r tends to 0. Similarly, when this r here tends to infinity, the final net expression tends to 0. What that means is that the electric field is 0 at infinity and at the origin. Now that also means that the electric field must be first increasing and then decreasing as we move from the origin to infinity, because it has 0 values at both origin and infinity, isn't it? So that means it must assume a maximum value between origin and infinity. Where will the electric field assume a maximum value? We can calculate that point. We can do that by differentiating the electric field with respect to r. The point where dE by dr is 0 will represent the point which will have the maximum electric field on the equator due to the two identical positive charge system. Here you go. Field increases and then decreases. When we differentiate the expression of the electric field and equate it to 0, we get the value of R, where d by dx of this expression is 0, as d by 2 root 2. What this means is that the electric field on the equator of a two identical positive charge system will be maximum at a perpendicular distance d by 2 root 2 from the axis of the two charge system. Understood? This is a very interesting conclusion, isn't it? We can even sketch this electric field, with respect to R. So what you see on your screen here is the graph of variation of the electric field on the equator of this two charge system with respect to R. Note that this graph has been rotated by an angle 90 degrees. So this side that you see on your screen is not the x-axis, it is the y-axis. It represents the distance r from the origin. That is the reason why you can see that these two charges are placed one above the other and not one left of the other or one right of the other. So basically we've turned the graph like this by an angle 90 degrees to make it easier to depict the variation of electric field with the variation of r. As you can see, at a perpendicular distance d by 2 root 2 from this two charge system, the electric field is maximum. It is 0 at the origin and it is 0 at infinity. Now we know that the value of electric field is given by this expression. In fact, this curve here represents this expression on your screen. When you substitute the value of r in this expression as d by 2 root 2, you get the maximum value of electric field as 4 by 3 root 3 into q by pi epsilon naught d square. Again, you don't need to remember the exact values of the maximum electric field. What you do need to remember, however, is how the electric field will vary with r. What exactly happens? Like, you'll be able to derive all these expressions in the examinations if your concepts about how the electric field is varying near a two positive charge system are clear. Just as we calculated the electric field on the equator because of a two positive charge system, we can calculate the net equatorial electric potential because of a two positive charge system. How will we do that? We'll do it in exactly the same way in which we calculated the net electric field. We'll add the electric potential due to the plus capital Q charge and the plus small q charge. The electric potential due to the plus capital Q charge will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q by r square plus d square by 4, isn't it? Similarly, the net electric potential due to the small plus q charge will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q by r square plus d square by 4. You can then add up V1 and V2 to get the net electric potential at the equator of the two charge system. In the case when the two charges are identical and positive, say equal to plus small q, you could simply double the equatorial potential due to one single charge and say that the net equatorial potential due to both the identical charges is 2 times q by 4 pi epsilon naught into 1 by square root of r square plus d square by 4, isn't it? All these formulae that I'm showing you, all these graphs related to the electric field and electric potential are simply to clear your concepts regarding the electric field and potential, when a system of charges is placed in a plane. You don't need to remember the exact formulae, but just grasp, what is happening, how to calculate the field at a point, concepts like that. A very interesting thing happens when you actually place a negatively charged particle on the origin when two positive charges are placed to the left of the origin and the right of the origin respectively. So you have this two positive charge system, and suddenly I have introduced this special charge minus capital Q. You see, it has been observed by scientists that when I slightly displace this minus q charge along the y-axis, slightly, and leave it, it automatically starts oscillating. This is what happens. You can see the results of the experiment on your screen. Can you guess why this happens? Well, I'll give you a clue. You see, When I take this minus q charge and place it somewhere on the y-axis, on the equator of this 2 positive charge system, have a look at the net force that is acting on this minus q charge. Clearly, the electric field because of the 2 positive charge system is only along the y-axis. Remember, we just calculated that the electric field on the equator because of 2 positive identical charges is only along the y-axis. The x components e cos theta cancel each other and the field is 2e sin theta, remember? So the net force that acts on this minus q charge will be QE in the negative y direction. Correct? After all, it's a negative charge and both these positive charges will attract it, and the net force will be QE in the downward direction. So when I place this minus q charge somewhere on the y-axis, its tendency will be to be pulled back towards these 2 positive charges. So when I release it, it gets pulled back and then it goes on the other side of the 2 positive charge system. When it goes on the other side of the 2 positive charge system, the net force on this minus q charge now acts upwards like this. This is because the 2 positive charges obviously attract the negative charge, isn't it? The electric field, as I just told you, in this case is still only along the y-axis on the equator of the 2 positive charge system. So the net force on the minus q charge acts upwards. So again the minus q charge gets pulled back upwards. So the minus q charge always keeps getting pulled towards the 2 positive charges. When it goes up, it gets pulled down. When it goes down, it gets pulled up. So it gets pulled down, up, down, and it keeps on oscillating on the equatorial line when it is displaced slightly from the origin. Any negative charge that is placed on the origin of a 2 positive charge system and slightly displaced will undergo oscillations. The electric field in this region is given by this expression you see on your screen, 2 by 4 pi epsilon naught q into x by x squared plus t squared by 4 whole raised to 3 by 2, where x is the distance of this negative charge from the origin. We have already calculated this expression earlier. This is simply the value of 2e sin theta that we calculated. Now if x is small, in that case x square can be neglected in comparison to d square by 4, isn't it? When you multiply this expression you see on your screen with q, the magnitude of the charge, you get the net restoring force acting on the minus q charge, isn't it? This net restoring force, which is always, trying to pull the charge back towards the origin, will have this magnitude. And this magnitude can simply be obtained, by multiplying this electric field you see on your screen here by capital Q. As you can see, this restoring force is proportional to x, where x is this distance. This one, the distance of the minus q charge from the origin at any instant. So since the restoring force is proportional to x, this is the case of simple harmonic motion. Therefore, simple harmonic motion takes place when a negative charge is placed on the origin and displaced by a very small distance on the equatorial line of a 2 positive charge system. The time period of this oscillation can be easily calculated by using the simple SHM formula. After all, when the acceleration is equal to a constant into x, the time period is 2 pi root 1 by constant, isn't it? We studied this formula in simple harmonic motion. So using that formula, A equal to minus omega square x, and comparing the restoring force here with that expression, we get the time period of oscillation of this minus q charge. Let's solve an IIT JEE problem related to these oscillations. As you already know, IIT JEE problems are the ideal way to clear concepts and relax a while. Two equal negative charges minus q are fixed at the points 0, minus a and 0, a on the y-axis. A positive charge capital Q is released from rest at the point 2a, 0 on the x-axis. The charge q will, Execute simple harmonic motion about the origin. Move to the origin and remain at rest. Move to infinity. Execute oscillatory but not simple harmonic motion. This question is tantalizingly close to what we just studied. This is what is happening in this question. Two charges minus q and minus q are placed on the axis as shown. A charge capital Q is placed at a distance 2a from the origin. As you can see, the two minus q charges are at a distance 2a from each other. When the capital Q charge is released, what happens to it? As we just studied, the capital Q charge will clearly undergo oscillations, just as in the case that we just studied where the minus q charge was undergoing oscillations when placed on the y-axis of the plus q and plus q charge. In this case, the plus q and plus q charge that we studied have been replaced by the minus q and minus q charge, and a capital Q charge, which is positive, has been placed on the y-axis. In this case too, as in the previous case, when this charge capital Q is here, it will experience a force like this towards the origin, because these two negative charges will attract it. Similarly, when this capital Q charge is here, it will experience a force upwards towards the origin, because again these two small minus q charges will attract it. It will again undergo, oscillatory motion, just as in the case we studied. We can calculate the magnitude of the restoring force on this positive plus q charge. This force will be equal to this expression you see on your screen. This expression is exactly the same as the expression that I just derived before we went after solving this IIT JEE problem. Remember, I have simply multiplied the electric field because of these two charges, 2e sine theta. I have multiplied that field by the magnitude of this charge plus q. This electric force, however, will not lead to simple harmonic oscillations. The reason is that in this case you cannot neglect x in comparison to d square by 4. That is because it is given that the particle q is released from a position that is 2a from the origin. 2a is exactly the same as d, the distance between the two minus q charges. So clearly it's not negligible at all. So the final motion of this charge capital Q will be harmonic but not simple harmonic. Therefore the correct answer is D. The charge Q will execute oscillatory but not simple harmonic motion. Understood? So that was about oscillations on the equatorial line. But did you know that oscillations can also occur when you place a charge on the axial line? Now that is fascinating. Oscillations occur when you take a positive charge capital Q and place it in between two charges plus small q and plus small q. So oscillations occur on the equatorial line when you take a negative charge or a charge of opposite sign compared to the two positive charges on the axis, and stretch it a bit. And oscillations occur on the axial line when you take a charge of similar sign, of same sign, and stretch it a bit along the axial line. For example, if you take this positive charge Q and stretch it a bit towards the right and then release it, it starts oscillating like this. As you can see, it oscillates along the axial line. Why does this oscillation occur? You see, when I stretch this charge plus capital Q and release it, a force capital Q into E will act towards the left on this charge. The force will act towards the left because this particular particle here will exert a force towards the left on this positive capital Q charge. That's because charges of the same sign repel each other. Similarly, this plus Q charge will exert a force towards the right on this plus capital Q charge, but the force due to this plus small q charge on the right will be stronger than the force because of the plus small q charge on the left. That's because this charge is nearer, isn't it, than this particular charge. So the net force on this plus capital Q charge will be QE towards the left. Now when this plus capital Q charge reaches the left side of the origin, a force plus QE acts towards the right on this particular charge. That's because, again, in this case, this charge plus small q on the left exerts a force towards the right on the charge plus capital Q, isn't it? Because like charges repel each other. This small charge plus q on the right also exerts a force towards the left on the charge plus capital Q. But that force is very less because this plus q charge is very distant, compared to this plus q charge on the left, which is near this plus capital Q charge. So the force because of this charge here dominates, and so the net force on this plus capital Q charge is towards the right. So as you can see, this plus capital Q charge always has a force acting on it, pulling it towards this origin O. When it goes too much towards the right, it is pulled back towards the origin. When it goes too much towards the left, it is again pulled back to the origin, and that is the reason it undergoes oscillations inside this area between the charges plus Q and plus Q here. Understood? That is how this plus capital Q charge undergoes oscillations. We can calculate the restoring force on this plus Q charge, like the value of this QE and this QE can be calculated because we already know the value of electric field inside the charges on the axis of a two positive charge system, isn't it? In our previous calculations, we had calculated the net field inside the two charge system to be minus 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into 2qxd divided by x square minus d square by 4 whole square. D here is the distance between the two charges, and x is the distance of the charge plus capital Q from the origin. This distance at any instant is x. This electric field is nothing new, like we had simply calculated it by subtracting the electric fields of this small plus Q charge and this small plus Q charge in the middle of these two charges. So if this is the value of electric field, and if x is very small compared to d, that is the distance by which this plus capital Q charge is stretched is very small compared to the distance between the two small plus Q charges, in that case the net restoring force QE becomes this expression. I have simply calculated this restoring force by multiplying this value of electric field by capital Q. Now this restoring force is proportional to x, isn't it? And since the force is proportional to x, the oscillation in this case will be simple harmonic, isn't it? This oscillation will be simple harmonic for small values of x, that is when the charge plus q is displaced only by a small distance on the right or the left of the origin. We can calculate the time period because of this simple harmonic motion using our usual formula. Remember, time period is 2 pi by omega if the acceleration in simple harmonic motion is minus omega square x. So when you substitute this expression here by omega square, and then the time period becomes 2 pi by omega. When you use these simple harmonic formulae, you can obtain the time period of small oscillations along the axial line. Understood? Again, there was no hi-fi fundamental involved in this case. All we did was simply calculate the force on a charged particle when it is placed between two other positive charges. That's all we did. Let's now take a look at an IIT JEE problem that was asked in 2001. With this problem, we'll conclude our discussion of like charges which are placed together on an axis. Two equal point charges are fixed at x equal to minus a and x equal to plus a on the x-axis. Another point charge, capital Q, is placed at the origin. The change in the electrical potential energy of Q when it is displaced by a small distance x along the x-axis is approximately proportional to x square, x cube, or 1 by x. This question is not related to the simple harmonic motion that we just talked about, but yes, it is related to two positive charges being placed on the x-axis at x equal to minus a and x equal to plus a, and another charge q being placed in between these charges. Now the question states, that when this charge plus q is displaced by distance x from the origin like this, then what is the change in the potential energy of plus q? So earlier it was at the origin, now it's at a distance say x comma 0. So what is delta PE, the change in the potential energy? An easy way to calculate this change in potential energy is by using the value of potential because of these two positive point charges. So we had discussed earlier that the potential due to this charge would be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into mod of x plus d by 2, and the potential due to the second charge would be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into x minus d by 2. This is of course given that the distance between the two charges is d and the distance of this positive charge plus q from the origin is x. So the potential at any point x because of this charge and this charge is this expression and this expression. The net potential will be V1 plus V2. Now to calculate the potential energy change in charge plus q, what we can do is we can calculate the value of V1 plus V2 at x, and we can calculate V1 plus V2 at the origin. Then the difference between these two potential values into the charge capital Q will be equal to the change in potential energy, isn't it? And that will be equal to our answer for this question. So let's try to calculate this difference in potential energy by calculating the potentials of the two charge system at the point that's at a distance x from the origin and at the origin. You see, the potential of the two charge system at a point that's a distance x from the origin will be this expression. All that I've done is substituted x in the formula V1 plus V2. In this case, you see, when the plus capital Q charge is to the right of the origin, then mod x minus d by 2 will assume the value d by 2 minus x, because x will be small and this distance d by 2 will be large. The potential at the origin will be 4q by 4 pi epsilon naught into d. That is because when you substitute x equal to 0 in this expression, V1 becomes 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q by d by 2, isn't it? Similarly, V2 also becomes the exact same thing, and therefore the net potential becomes this expression. When you simplify and subtract V origin from V final and then multiply that expression by the magnitude of the charge q, that will give you the potential energy change of the charge capital Q when it is displaced by distance x from the origin. Now one fascinating phenomenon here is that x is given to be very small in comparison to d. Note that d, the distance between the two charges, is given to be 2a in this case, since the charges are located at a comma 0 and minus a comma 0. So when I substitute d by 2a, this is the final expression of the potential energy change that I get. All that I basically did was calculated the net potential due to both the positive charges at a distance x from the origin. I calculated the net potential due to both the positive charges at the origin. I subtracted the potential and multiplied the change in potential with the magnitude of the charge capital Q to get the net potential energy change of the charge capital Q. Now if x is small, compared to a, or compared to 2a, which is the distance between the charges, in that case x square here can be neglected, and that gives us the expression potential energy change proportional to x square, isn't it? And if that is so, the correct answer for this question will be B, x square. So the potential energy change for the charge capital Q when it is displaced by distance x from the origin for a small displacement x will be proportional to x square. That's our answer. This question was actually very simple. You see, all you had to do was make use of the concepts of potential because of 2-point charges. So IIT JEE questions are mostly simple. All they involve is simple concepts of electric field, electric potential, the variation of electric field and potential, that's all. Now that we've finished studying about like charges, let's move on to one more concept that we'll study in this chapter. A system of two unlike charges. I'll not go into detail while explaining the system of two unlike charges because it's so similar to the systems we've studied earlier. Even in the case of two unlike charges, you can calculate the electric field and electric potential on the axis on the equator as usual. Calculate the electric field due to the plus q charge, calculate the electric field due to the minus q charge, and add the fields. You can decide the direction of the electric field very easily. Use some logic. For example, at this particular point, the electric field due to the minus q charge will be in this direction, the electric field due to the plus q charge will be in this direction, and the net electric field will be in this direction, negative, because the electric field because of the minus q charge might be stronger. You see, because this area is near the minus q charge. So things like that, just apply some logic and you'll be able to find out the electric field here, 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 everywhere. Similarly, you can find out the electric potential. So just apply some logic and you'll be able to find the electric field on the axis, on the equator as required. You can similarly find out the electric potential by adding up the electric potentials of plus q and minus q. When we actually stretch a graph for the electric field variation along the axis of the charge plus q and minus q, this is the graph we get. This graph is pretty easy to predict. You see, at this particular point on the axis, the electric field because of the charge plus q will be in this direction, the electric field because of the charge minus q will again be in this direction, so the net electric field will be positive. Even here, the electric field will be like this, isn't it? So the electric field between the charges will be positive. The electric field outside the charges will be opposite in direction because of both the charges. So it could be positive and it could be negative, as you can see here, isn't it? There will be a certain point, on the axis where the electric field due to one charge will counter the electric field due to the other charge. At that particular point, the electric field will be 0. Similarly, we can draw a graph for the electric potential because of these two charges. Again, you don't need to exactly remember the graph, but just remember the brief outline. You see, the electric potential will be the sum of the electric potentials of this charge and this charge. As you can see, it will be 0 at some point on the axis because plus 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q by r will somewhere cancel minus 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q by r. At the point where the cancellation occurs, the net electric potential will be 0, isn't it? At this particular point, the electric potential will be positive because of this positive charge. You see, the electric potential near the positive charge is positive, the electric potential near the negative charge is negative because the influence of the negative charge is more in that area. So just try to visualize what will happen and you'll get the answer. That brings us to the end of this chapter related to the study of what happens in a two like charge system. And yeah, towards the end we also studied, electric field and electric potential graphs of an unlike charge system. You should now be able to handle almost all IIT JEE level problems related to point charges. Let's now move on to the next chapter.